Caleb Downs is dominating for Ohio State, but could he be even better?
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Wednesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, Veteran Sports Talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. During today's show, we'll touch on some of the improvements we've seen from Davison Igbinosun throughout the early part of the year, what makes Arvell Reese special, and of course, Julian Sayin and what he's done throughout his first 3 games as he's been Ohio State starting quarterback. But first, it's all about Caleb Downs, and here to join us for the entirety of today's show, it's my favorite NFL draft analyst, Ryan Roberts. And Ryan, Caleb Downs has been a blessing to have for another year because last year was great, but seeing his development and improvement from last year to this year and how Matt Patricia has been able to utilize him has been a lot of fun to watch. I'm curious from your standpoint. I know it's too early to look at an NFL draft grade from what he's done this year, but it's kind of hard to not say this guy's going to be a top 10 pick next year.
I would say top 20 for sure.
Okay.
I do think that the conversation centered around safeties tend to fall a little bit. I mean, there were the days, obviously, of like Eric Berry going top 5 and Jamal Adams going top 10 and all those types of things. So we've seen it, but not as much recently, right? Like you see like Kyle Hamilton going number 14 overall.
Yeah.
You saw what's his name from Georgia last year, whose name's escaping me for some reason, even though he was a really good player, number 24. Malachi Starks. I just talk, and eventually it comes, Jay. It comes eventually when I just keep talking. Malachi Starks drops into like the late first round conversation, right? So like really talented safeties tend to fall for whatever reason, right? So I don't think it's unrealistic to say that there's a possibility that even if you grade out Caleb Downs, and I think most teams will grade him out as a top 10 player, that he could fall a little bit just generally from the positional value conversation. But he's probably as safe a player as you're going to find in the 2026 NFL draft because, I mean, you just think of it like this way. His size isn't great. He's probably, I mean, I know he's listed like 6 foot, 205 pounds, but he's probably going to be like 5'10 high, maybe 5'11, 205 pounds. So he's not like the biggest safety of all time. Almost said hugest. That's not a word. One of the biggest safeties of all time. But he's so technically refined. He has such great eyes. He's played a couple different roles at a couple big-time programs now at Alabama and now at Ohio State for 2 years. He's played with Matt Patricia this year, which is huge for him because Jim Knowles' his defense was very you need a deep understanding to play it, right? Like it's an advanced system for college perspective. But playing under Coach Patricia, I mean, he made his heyday as an NFL defensive coordinator. So you're going to be asked to do a lot of different things from a NFL-centric perspective this year compared to what you were with Coach Knowles. So I think that's going to help him big time. And then also, he has NFL bloodlines, which helps everything. His dad is a coach. Like all those things kind of check a lot of boxes for Caleb Downs that he is at least, I think in the NFL, going to be a good to very good player at least, right? So yeah, he's a pretty easy evaluation, I think, right now.
Ryan, I always talk about his instincts and how he's instinctual with every step and every decision. You talk about his eyes and his technique, and all those things are great. But for some reason, the Buckeyes got a guy whose instincts are off the charts. And you think about a quarterback sometimes or an offensive lineman whose instincts snap every single play. I don't know how Caleb Downs does it. I don't know if it's the film study. I don't know if it's his NFL bloodline. I don't know. But his instincts to me are what make him a guy that impacts every single play.
Well, so the coach's kid thing is a cliche that is very negative sometimes because that usually means that a guy's not super talented. Caleb Downs obviously is very talented, which is why he was a 5-star player, right? So, but I do think that his dad, which I think his name is Gary Downs, he's a college defensive back coach, if I remember correctly. Or at least he's been in college coaching for a little bit here. You could see that he's been around football for a long, long time. So he sees the game at an advanced level. He really does. He processes stuff very quickly. And the one thing that we need to talk about too is, despite him not being the biggest safety of all time, I think he compares a lot to Budda Baker that plays with the Arizona Cardinals. He is one of the best tacklers that you are going to see in the open field. Like, he just doesn't miss much, right? So he's a clean tackler coming downhill. He's very smart. The only thing that I wish that Ohio State allowed him to do more, Jay, so for me, not for them, what he's doing is great. They don't need to tell him to do anything else. Like, keep doing what you're doing, Caleb. You don't need to change for them. I would love, though, if they played him from depth a little bit more, maybe a little bit single high at times, because the only question I have about Caleb Downs is how impactful he can be from deep zone coverage. I just don't know the answer to that, right? Like they just don't ask him to do it. They ask him to play short zone, some man in the slot, mid hole. Like they ask him to basically come down with his eyes a lot more, which is totally fine. Nothing wrong. There's a role in the NFL for that, obviously. But if he was a guy that could also show me that, hey, he has huge impact working from deep zone coverage, then that's where we're talking about like a complete elite level prospect, no doubts, blue chip, like all those types of things. And he might be that without it. But I do think that that's one thing that I still have question marks and it's not a question mark because he can't do it. It's a question mark because I just haven't seen him do it, if that makes sense, right? So that's where I wish Coach Patricia, if you listen to this podcast, and you should, if you don't, if you listen to this podcast, just let me get him single high like 5 times this year. Just give me 5 snaps, and then I will be able to see what that back pedal looks like, what those eyes look like, the tempo in the pedal. I just want to see it for my sake, Jay, just for my sake.
Ryan, you might have to wait till the Michigan game for that because Patricia might be trying to save that aspect of Caleb Downs' game for that week. I even said, I think it was on Tuesday's show, that Ohio State might roll out in a 3-4 defense that week and just try to confuse the true freshman quarterback, assuming he's healthy all year, because that's one thing that in the NFL, Peyton Manning could never figure it out. The 3-4 defense, the Chargers, the Steelers, the Patriots always had the 3-4 defense, and he couldn't figure out where the extra blitzer was coming from. He couldn't figure out who was dropping back into coverage. And while Ohio State has used different sets and different formations this year on defense, Downs has figured out how to work in anything. And so I think he could figure out the deep safety part. I'm with you, though. I think in Big Ten play, that would be a massive benefit for Ohio State's defense because you could get some coverage sacks if they decided to go that route because Downs wouldn't be in the wrong spot. I think he can do it. I would love if they decided to make him do that. I just don't know if they're going to because what they have going on right now works.
Yeah, and they also don't need to because, and we're not going to talk about him now because he's a younger cat, but Jalen McClain can play, man. That young man is a good safety next to him. He has range too, right? I remember him. He's actually a Jersey guy. Notre Dame looked at him for a bit. They loved him. That kid is a really good player working from depth, a lot of range. You saw that in the Texas game, especially deep down the field. I think that kid is going to be the next guy that we talk about after Caleb Downs, but also Caleb doesn't need to play that role because they have a guy that is very good at that role as well, developing into that role.
Is Notre Dame going after his brother? Because I think Ohio State has taken a look at him.
No, I don't think so. I think that he's a little bit lower ranked, if I remember correctly. I think he was a 3-star at least, but I forget. McClain's from DePaul Catholic, right? Is that where he's from?
I think so.
I think it's DePaul
right.
Catholic here in Jersey. But yeah, his brother, which I think is KJ. Please don't leverage me here. If people are like, oh, dude, what an idiot. He doesn't even know his name. I've seen his younger brother, though, in the 2026 class. He's a good player. But I remember watching Jalen, and I'm just like, yeah, that kid's pretty good, man. That kid's pretty good.
He was one of those wild cards right now for the year because I didn't think he's going to start. I thought it was going to be Malik Hartford starting over McClain. But when McClain got there in the Texas game, I was like, oh, Malik, you're not getting on the field really that much at all with the starters because McClain is – I don't want to say the perfect compliment because that's almost like it's too big of a statement, and I don't want to go that far, but they paired together very well.
Well, I'll say this. If you don't want to say it, I'll say it. He's the perfect compliment to Caleb Downs. I think he's the perfect compliment. You know what it is, though, Jay? It really, I almost called you Joe because I have a podcast with the J. Yeah, so bad. But, Jay, the crazy thing, though, is Malik Hartford is a stud, I think, coming out of high school, right? But he is, and here's the point that I think that you're trying to get to, which I think is 100% correct. McClain's style, I think, plays with Caleb Downs' style better than Malik Hartford's style does. Malik Hartford is much more, and he's much bigger body, so it's different, but he fits the Caleb Downs role, right? Like, he's a short zone, physical guy. Like, that's what you want Malik Hartford to do. I think McClain fits just kind of a totally different style of play than what we see from Downs every week.
From Caleb Downs, who has been phenomenal to watch this year, to a guy who has started 3 games at quarterback. And I know it's a little early for Ryan to get his grades in for Julian Sayin, but I'm curious to hear Ryan's thoughts about how number 10 has played this year. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, Athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Nappa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence all through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Ohio State, Caden Curry delivered in a big way once again. When the pressure was on, Caden Curry came through. And it's not just him coming through with a sack or two. No, it's sometimes batting a ball down at the line of scrimmage or being at the nose and quickly beating the center and getting pressure on the quarterback. When he came through, there was no hesitation and no delay. If you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Caden Curry is on a streak. And just like Caden Curry delivered for Ohio State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Julian Sayin's a guy that when he's coming in, he got a lot of hype, the 5-star kid, but no one really knew what to expect. You got a little bit of a glimpse of him during spring practice. You got 3 practices in the fall when media and the public had watched practice, but no one really knew what to expect. His accuracy to me has been something I've loved. It's been almost I wasn't expecting it. I know that the processing is there, as everybody said, and he has the arm talent, great. The accuracy is one that has been a big surprise because I don't expect any quarterback to just come in at any role. No matter if it's Ohio State, Notre Dame, Clemson, doesn't matter. You could even be at a Ball State. I don't care. I don't think anybody's going to come in and be that accurate from day one, but he has been very accurate. What has impressed you so far with how Sayin has played?
Well, I think it's the style that Ohio State would prefer a quarterback more often than not, in the sense of Will Howard was kind of this big, brooding pocket quarterback that wasn't a bad athlete, right? Like, he could do some things out of structure at times, but he was much more pocket-centric. I think that over the course of Ryan Day's career, whether we're talking about Justin Fields, I know C.J. Stroud was a little bit of that, more of that pocket-centric quarterback, but I do think that they want a little bit more athleticism at the quarterback position. And obviously, Julian Sayin, we haven't seen that a ton on the ground yet, but I think we will against better competition down the stretch when they start to put a little bit more things on his plate. Because if you watch him at Carlsbad, he could, out in California in high school, he was a really good RPO guy that not only got the ball out of his hand in the pass game, but also could be an extension of the run game a little bit. So he can move. He's a good athlete overall. And he is accurate. He always has been accurate. I don't think he has the greatest arm of all time. Like, I don't think he has a great arm just from a pure velocity perspective, but he has enough to be able to put it in spots where he needs to put it. And especially when you have, I mean, let's not kid ourselves, right? You have, in a couple years, if Julian Sayin makes it in the NFL and makes it as a starter, there's a possibility that the NFL team that he gets drafted to is going to have a worse wide receiver crew than he has right now at Ohio State right this second, right? Because, I mean, you have Jeremiah Smith, who's an alien. You have Carnell Tate, who's taken a big step, who's been really good so far this year for Ohio State. You have Brandon Inniss. You have these youngsters like Quincy Porter and the quarterback from Ohio that transitioned to wide receiver, whose name I'm not going to mispronounce here. The Miller kid. Yeah, so much talent, Jay. We know it. The tight ends are pretty good too. Max Claire's good, and the blocking tight end's a pretty good player. Like, you have so much receiving talent that you need him to make good decisions, get the ball out on time, and then to be that extension. And he's a little bit of that point guard type of quarterback, which I think works in this offense so well. So he came in as a 5-star, kind of a advanced player in terms of understanding how to get the ball out of his hand fast and where his eyes need to go, all that type of stuff. And we're seeing that early on in his career, that he is a guy that understands where to put the football and is mostly genuinely accurate when he decides to put the football in a particular place.
Ryan, the one thing that I would say is a knock, but can be worked on, is his arm strength. Now, he has had quite a few passes that were pretty deep, and they have been going for touchdowns, numerous over 40-plus yards, which is great. I'm not trying to say that he can't be accurate with that deep ball. I told you before we hit record, and I'll say it here on the show, it looks like at times he's trying to do almost like a teardrop in basketball or a rainbow shot when he's throwing deep balls. The one to Carnell Tate against Texas week number 1, I saw it and I'm thinking, okay, it's online, it's accurate, it's good coverage. It could be an incomplete pass or a touchdown. Luckily, Carnell Tate made a big play, and it was a touchdown. But I'm thinking that ball in the playoff might be picked off because you're allowing a safety maybe coming over top to have a little bit extra time, maybe an extra second to get there. I don't know if that's something that Ryan Day is going to allow to continue, but I don't know how you work on someone's arm strength, not so much the accuracy of it, but you can't lead a ball in the air as long as he is throughout the entire season. Am I crazy for this?
No, you're not crazy. I think that generally speaking, arm strength can improve, especially with age, right? I mean, what's he, 19 years old probably, right? He's only a second-year player. So as he gets bigger and stronger, because that's the other thing about Sayin is like he's not a big quarterback, right? Like he is a smaller quarterback. So generally speaking, adding more strength to his frame, to his lower half, like you can improve arm strength. You can, especially at his age. But I will say we always talk about this with like pass rushers, but there is a difference between a power thrower and then a finesse thrower. And right now, Julian Sayin is a finesse thrower. It's not a bad thing. Like there's been some really good quarterbacks in the NFL that are not the strongest arm dudes of all time, but they understand how to layer the football to different parts of the field and understand how to throw a touch and all those types of things. So I think that generally speaking, that will improve with age. I don't know just right now if he has the arm strength where he can put a little bit more zip on it and not throw with as much touch and drive the football to some necessary aspects of the field. Like I just don't know if he necessarily has that. So in that regard, you need to throw it earlier, right? Like that play to Carnell Tate where he just puts the dude in a blender against Texas and he has like 7-8 yards of separation. You need to get that ball out faster, right? Get that ball out faster so you don't have to have a contested catch in the end zone. Make things easier. I think as he plays more, that internal clock is going to speed up a little bit. He's going to find reads a little bit faster, and hopefully that his arm strength improves as his body continues to develop here as well.
So, Ryan, Ohio State's in the midst of their off week, their first of 2 this year. They come off of the off week, and they have to go to Washington. That's one place I've said all year long, it worries me. I'm not saying Ohio State's going to lose a game, but that is possibly going to be one of the toughest. Like if you take going to Michigan out of the equation, out of all the other road games, that's tougher. That could be tougher than going to Wisconsin. It's definitely tougher than going to Illinois. Washington's a weird place to play. You don't normally go there. Even on vacation, you don't go out to Seattle, Washington. And then you add in, now the defense isn't the strongest, but it could end up being a shootout if DeMond Williams figures some things out with Ohio State's defense. How do you expect him to handle that crowd when he comes back after the off week?
Well, I think the tricky part, and I know he was a part of the team last year, so he did some traveling, but like to your point, traveling to Seattle is not the easiest trip of all time, right? Like it's not easy at all. So you're jumping over a couple time zones too there, right? I mean, because Ohio is Eastern time, are they not? Or are you guys Central? Yeah. You're Eastern. So you're jumping to a couple time zones there. You're going from Eastern time zone all the way to Pacific. So you're jumping back 3 hours, right? So like it is going to be a little bit of a internal clock, not as a football player, but like literally jet lag and internal clock of like trying to reprogram yourself on a short-term basis. So I think that is going to be important, just how they handle the travel more than anything. I'm not as worried about like, I mean, obviously it's a big game, so there's going to be a good crowd or whatever, but like you play in the shoe, right? Like you're used to crowds every single week. Like you go to the big house, like you're used to those crowds. I think he'll be fine in like that type of a situation. It's just about the mental and physical preparation prior to the game is what I would have my most concern over. Because to your point, Washington has a couple of pretty talented corners in Decario Davis and the Price kid. So like there'll be some challenge to the Ohio State wide receivers. The Ohio State receivers are better, so they'll win more than they lose, obviously. But I really do think that you have to be ready for that potential of a shootout because DeMond Williams, Jonah Coleman at running back, like they have some offensive firepower out there with the Huskies, and Jed Fish is a really good offensive mind, obviously. So I think you need to be prepared for a different type of. I don't think this is going to be a Texas game where it's like first team to 10 is going to win this football game, right? Like it's not going to be one of those games. You need to be ready to score a little bit more and need to be prepared. But I really think that lead up to the game, that preparation of that travel, I think that's going to be the most important mental hurdle that a guy like Sayin or any other player on the team is going to need to get over.
Ryan, real quick before we hit another break, you mentioned Carnell Tate earlier and how he's taken a massive step. I would like for you to dive into that before we go in transition to Arvell Reese.
Carnell Tate might be wide receiver 1 when all is said and done. Like it's very possible. Like he was a top 5 receiver for me going into the year. And that was more of like, hey, the talent is obviously there, but some of the consistency stuff needs to be better, right? Like he needs to be more consistent in his route breaks. He needs to be more consistent tracking the football down the field. Like he needs to be more consistent from a sophomore to junior year jump. And we've seen it so far, right? Like he's been much better tracking the football, playing in the air, playing through contact. Like all those things have really matured. And when you're talking about this wide receiver class, Jay, like most people have Jordan Tyson from Arizona State as their wide receiver 1 in this class, and he was my guy in the summer. But the thing is that when you're comparing him to a Carnell Tate, Tate's a little bit younger, but also Tyson has an injury history, right? So like a guy with Tate to take the jump that he has so far and to dominate in those bigger moments in those contested catch situations, it's possible that when April rolls around, he ends up being a top 15, top 20 selection and a guy that ends up being the first receiver off the board. He has that type of upside to him.
From Downs to Sayin to a little bit of Carnell Tate, there's one more guy, a few more guys that I sent text to Ryan about, but one I definitely want to hit is Arvel Reese because he has been, Ryan, what I call a bright spot for the Buckeyes defense. We'll discuss that after the break. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought. Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Arvell Reese has been a bright spot. One of those guys that played a little bit last year in a backup role, but you knew with Sonny Styles being who he is and taking a step in his progression, someone had to play big and step up in a massive way to replace Cody Simon's production from last year. Now, Arvell Reese and Cody Simon aren't the same players, but that production that Arvell Reese is providing is what Ohio State's what Ohio State's defense, I said it twice, what Ohio State's defense needs. There we go. I finally got it out.
Jay, I remember I saw some Arvell Reese last year in his backup opportunities behind Cody Simon inside, right? And like you saw it last year, right? But how spoiled the Buckeyes linebackers under James Laurinaitis are right now. When you're talking about going into the year, you're like, dang, dude, like Sonny Styles is a alien, right? Like number 6, I think he's number 0 now, right? They changed his number to 0, I thought. He is 6'4" plus. He's 237 to 240 pounds. He's going to probably run 4.5 something. He's going to jump out of the gym because he's a former safety. You're looking at that guy and you're like, dang, Ohio State has an alien playing linebacker. And now we're in a debate of like, who's the freakier athletes, him or Arvell Reese, because Arvell's different, right? Like he's different. They're about the same size, but they are completely different football players, like completely. Sonny Styles is more of the space will linebacker type, play in pursuits, play out in space. Arvell Reese this guy is going to come downhill and knock your head off. Like that's what he's going to do. Delay blitz and be able to play on the line of scrimmage at times when you feel like they're both roughly the same size. But Arvell and this linebacker class in 2026, if he chooses to declare, because again, he can come back if he wants to. I don't know why he will with the start he's on if he continues playing this well, but it's a wide open linebacker class. Like it really is. Like I love CJ Allen from Georgia, right? Like that was my linebacker 1 in the preseason, but he does not look like Arvell Reese looks, right? Like he's not 6'4", 240 something pounds that can run like the wind and looks like that. So if he continues to do that, he is another guy like Carnell Tate that we talked about already. Could he be the first player taken in his position? I think it's arguable, man. Like, because like some people will say, oh, Sonny Styles may be linebacker 1 in this class. And if you say that, I don't have an issue with you. If Sonny Styles was my linebacker 2, I think that kid's a freak, like absolute freak. But if you're asking me, what's more important potentially for a team? A Mike linebacker that can do everything Arvell Reese can do, or a Will linebacker can do everything Sonny Styles could do, there is an interesting conversation to say, Arvel Reese's role might be more important on the NFL level right now. Like it might just be more important. So that kid is off to a great start. We saw the performance he had against Texas, obviously. If he continues that maturation throughout the rest of the year, then it's going to be very hard to run on the Buckeyes defense down the stretch. Very hard.
Ryan, Davison Igbinosun got a lot of negative attention last year, and he deserved it for a lot of the things he did, not just with the penalties, but some of his technique at times wasn't what it should have been. And then just 3 games this year, it has seemed like he's worked a lot on his technique and hand placement, closed fist at times to make sure he's not grabbing somebody's jersey. And his physicality that he brings to the table, I think is something that Arvel Reese even feeds off of and allows him to play more physical. What have you seen that you like about Davison Igbinosun so far?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, shout out to the secondary coaches at Ohio State, because these guys all tackle. Like, they all tackle. I mean, Jermaine Mathews tackles. Caleb Downs obviously tackles. Davison Igbinosun tackles. Like, all these guys are impactful in the run game with their head back towards the line of scrimmage. Like, they do all that stuff really well. The talent was never the issue of Davison Igbinosun, Jay. Like, it never was. Like, he's 6'1 plus. He's got 33 plus inch arms. Like, he's going to run 4.3 something. Like, he's a freak show, right? Like, that's what you want, just physically. But my biggest pet peeve with cornerbacks of guys that I'm usually lower on is when they panic in the air or they panic down the field and they get super grabby. Because when you're grabby, that tells me that you do not have confidence in yourself down the field to locate and be able to play the football in the air. And I think that Davison Igbinosun, you talked about the lack of technique. The lack of technique is what leads to the panic at the catch points or working down the field. Like that, those things are intertwined. They go hand in hand. So I do think that he's a player that needed to be more confident in his abilities and his technique, because he's very talented, obviously. If he is more of the version that we've seen so far, where it's like, okay, not as grabby, fluid hips, can run with anybody, has length for days, then we're talking about a kid that's going to get drafted high. And I think he was going to get drafted high regardless, even if we saw the 2024 version, because the height, weight, speed, someone was going to draft in top 100 just based upon his physical profile. But could he be a top 50 kid now? Possible. Could he be a top 32 kid? Possibly. Like, if he has a great year, it's possible, because people want to buy into that physical profile, that athleticism profile. It's very easy to see. So if he's being more consistent, then it's very easy to buy into. Again, we'll see down the stretch against a few better teams. I know he had a good game against Texas, obviously, but if he can stack games and stack performances against the best receivers that he plays, and he can cut out those penalties and those holdings and those pass interference calls, then we're talking about a guy that could definitely be a riser in 2026 for sure.
What about Mathews Jr., new guy replacing Denzel Burke, who kind of had a fall before he graduated and went off to the NFL? And Burke was a guy you and I talked about quite a bit about, is it confidence? Is it like we were trying to figure out why he fell the way that he did in the last couple of years while he was at Ohio State? Well, Mathews Jr. is a guy that doesn't really back down from anybody. He has a no-fear mentality. He talks all the trash, but he's been able to back it up. And some are saying he could be a lockdown corner right now. When we get to Big Ten play, we'll be able to see if that's actually true. But so far, it's been fun to watch Ohio State have 2 corners on the opposite side to get the job done.
So I will say I did talk to a scout like maybe a week ago, that that they thought that Mathews is the better of the Ohio State corners if he decides to come out. Like there is some love around the NFL already for the young man. I know he is young though, obviously, right? I think he's only a true junior, so like he could come back for 2026 at college football season if he wants to. We'll see what happens. I will say this again. He has everything you want, right? Like the makeup is good as far as like being aggressive, having a little bit of that swagger to him. He has the height, weight, speed that you want to. He's going to check a lot of boxes. He's a good athlete overall. The one thing though that I do want to see is I do think there's a mental maturation that's still happening with him, because I think we saw it in the Texas game, right? Like he had the pass interference call on Parker Livingston in the end zone, right? Where he's just he wasn't also trusting his technique. He was just getting grabby. He was just trying to ride him to the end zone. But you also saw that even with the pass breakup he had earlier in the game off like that post, I think it was, where he kind of shows good zone awareness to get back. Needs to be careful with the the point of contact down the field because he's kind of striding the line of like physical contact that could be a penalty. I think that he is still a player that hasn't played a ton. I know he played some in 2024 down the stretch especially, but I think he just needs to play more. Like I think he needs more live bullets, more live reps, because I still don't think he necessarily always trusts himself working down the field in one-on-one coverage. If that comes, then he's going to be another guy that's going to be drafted very high. It could potentially be in this cycle if he figures it out down the stretch, but we've seen great flashes for him. I think it's now just about stacking and being able to be a more consistent version of himself every game.
Ryan, last thing here. This is not in the text, but you'll understand where I'm going. In the offseason, I don't know if it was on the show, you mentioned how you weren't really all in on Caden Curry and how, like, the things he did were good, but, like, not on the radar for an NFL draft perspective. It's only 3 games.
Yep.
He's been pretty good so far. Has he impressed you with how he's played?
I think he's just about the same as he is, right? Like he plays with a great motor. I think he plays with good technique. He's a relentless dude, right? So like he's going to play well. But I will say this, Jay, the defensive end spot has been a little bit of a letdown for me at Ohio State to a degree.
Right.
Like I think Bo Atkinson has had some flash plays, which I liked him a lot at North Carolina. So I think he's a guy that we could be talking about either in this class or next class, depending, because he's got eligibility remaining. But I mean, obviously with like Kenyatta Jackson getting banged up or whatever, and Caden Curry just being kind of an average athlete or below average athlete, I don't think the defensive ends have been great necessarily. I will say this, the defensive tackle, number 98, whose name's escaping me right now, the big boy. I forget his name.
Caden McDonald, I think.
Yeah, okay, dude, Caden McDonald. I know everyone's talking about the Edric Houston kid, and he's very talented as well. Caden McDonald is a dog, Jay.
Yes.
That dude is a dog, man. I highlighted him after the first game against Texas. You cannot move that kid at the point of attack, man. Like, that kid is good. 6'3", like 326. I know I'm going off on a tangent, even though you asked me about Caden Curry, but that McDonald kid, I think, is the best defensive lineman that Ohio State has right now, in my opinion. For what he's asked to do, for his role in this defense, I think he's the best at what he does, particularly on that defensive line right now. But I like Bo Atkinson. I think Caden Curry will definitely get a look in the NFL. I still kind of trend to think that I think that he's much more of like a priority free agent type right now than he's a guy that's going to get drafted.
Last thing here, I was hoping, and I don't know if this is even on your radar, is like a hope that you had from an NFL draft perspective about a guy that it was on no one's radar that may be there at the end of the year. I was hoping to get more from CJ Hicks early in the year. I just haven't. He's had plays here or there, but the consistency hasn't been there. I don't even know if he could do anything. I know he can because he is an athletic freak, but my hope was that he was going to get drafted the highest at day 2. I don't see day 2 right now, maybe day 3, but I don't know if he's going to be able to like get on the field consistently outside of obvious passing situations to get on the NFL draft radar, people like yourself.
Well, I will say this about Hicks, and he had 1 or 2 flashy plays against Texas. So like, I mean, athletically, he's very talented. There's a reason that he was a 5-star, right? Like we always come back to that. There's a reason that he's a 5-star. He's still very new to the position, right? Like he doesn't fully know what he's doing. I mean, luckily he's got a really good defensive line coach with a great resume, right? So like he'll figure it out throughout the season to a degree. But if an NFL team drafts him or invests in him this April, I think the long-term outlook, Jay, is like this kid is a guy that's going to need to come in and play special teams. You're going to need to get him with a good defensive line coach to develop him. Because like right now, he's not a playable, like he's not a guy that you're going to project to be a starter right now, like in the immediate future. He's a talented athlete that has some versatility to him, that certainly has upside of development for the small sample size we have at defensive end, but he's a guy that is a pure dart throw projection pick right now.
That's Ryan Roberts of A to Z Sports on the show once again. He's my favorite NFL draft analyst. We'll try to get Ryan on during the next Ohio State off week. We'll kind of just recap again and kind of go through some more players. But then once we get after the season, that's when Ryan and I try to get some things going weekly, dissecting players that have entered the NFL draft, get Ryan's expertise in his analysis about where these guys are as prospects and where they're going to get drafted. You can follow him on X at @RiotLetterInDraft. You can follow me on the same platform at JSteven07. That's also where you can find me on any social media platform. This has been Locked on Buckeyes on a Wednesday. We'll see you next time.